Clark.
Here.
Commissioner Persky.
Here.
Commissioner Dodge. Here. Commissioner Lemmeyer. Here. Commissioner Bertram.
Here.
All present.
Okay, thank you. Please join us now for a stand up and a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we've got a lot of things on the agenda this morning. We're looking for if anything's going to be removed from the agenda. Now would be the time. I'm going to ask for F10 for Jody to give a brief explanation of that during her report, so we'll move that down to her section of the meeting. K3 will make that. So I will request that F10 be pulled from the consent agenda. Anything else?
Well, Mr. Chair, if you were waiting for the consent agenda, I would like to pull F5 in consideration of the permit of Elizabeth Fiedler.
Okay. And where should we put that?
Well, let's when we get to let's decide that. When we
Okay.
get to it.
First row. So those two items are being requested to be pulled from the consent agenda. Anything else or any discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made by Commissioner Clark, second by Commissioner Persky to approve the consent agenda as amended. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes. So now we're going to do the presentation of awards, and Mike will.
Yeah, we have two items today on presentations and awards. The first is to recognize our outgoing appointees to our board, our community boards and committees, our advisory boards and committees, and we're recognizing 10 people, and all of them served for 8 years on various committees. Our advisory boards and committees, of course, they connect the board and staff to the community. They give us advice, and sometimes are even making decisions on for the county. So very important roles that these people fill in our government and our governance. So we want to make sure that we appreciate all 10 of these people, and we do have 2 of them here. We have Dennis, who was served on the Dairy Advisory Committee, and Eunice, who served on the Human Services Advisory Committee, I think are both here. And so we're happy to present them with their awards. Snap a picture.
Should we do one at a time? Should we do one at a time?
Sure.
I think that, yeah, if you want, okay. Sorry.
It's
just-
not gonna get any better.
Yeah.
At least not for me.
Okay,
Dennis.
Congratulations, Dennis.
Eunice.
Oh, I thought we did it all at once, I'm sorry. There you go.
Eunice.
For those of you watching and the public, to serve on these committees does take a lot of effort and some time, but it's well worth that effort. And watch our website. There's a lot of committees that are ongoing that there's openings for and we need service on. So by all means, get involved you really can make a difference, and appreciate all the members that are recognized this morning.
Mr. Chair, could I make a
Commissioner-
suggestion that maybe Mike reads off the list of names?
Sure, there you go. Good idea.
We had Bonnie Mossman, Board of Adjustment, all of these, well, not all of them, but that's 8 years since 2016. Jill DeLong on the Board of Adjustment since 2019. Sean Blackbird on the Planning Commission since January of 17. We recognize Dennis, Dr. Lee Michaels on the Dairy Advisory, Dr. Steve Baldwin on the Dairy Advisory, Carl Funk on the Dairy Advisory, and Matthew Ruette on the Dairy Advisory Committee, and all of those were served since 2016. And then Ken Mossman served on the Extension Committee also since 2016, and then Eunice we recognized here. So, great service.
Yes, thank you. And then the next one will be the resolution recognizing the efforts of the new community park acquisition in Painesville. Are you going to read the resolution?
I think that's the best way to do this.
Okay.
It's a resolution recognizing the efforts in raising funds for a new community park acquisition. Whereas the Painesville area community and Commissioner Jeff Bertram have demonstrated outstanding generosity and dedication in their collective effort to enhance the quality of life for all residents. Whereas through fundraising efforts and contributions, $150,000 was raised to support the acquisition of a new community park. This new park will provide essential recreation spaces, promote environmental stewardship, and serve as a gathering place for residents of all ages to enjoy outdoor activities and build strong community bonds. Now therefore be it resolved that the Stearns County Board of Commissioners hereby recognizes and commends the extraordinary commitment, spirit, and generosity of those who contributed their time, resources, and efforts toward the fundraising initiative. And it further resolved that the Stearns County Board of Commissioners conveys its deepest appreciation to all that supported the fundraising efforts and acknowledges the significant and positive impact this new park will have on the community for generations to come. February 11th, 2025.
We will take a picture of the check in a little bit here and ask some folks to come up, but I just want to say that I was proud to be a part of this, because what we did was when there was interest, first of all, Linda Listman, who will come up and join us for the picture, 35 plus years ago started designing her property that one day it could be something like this. And then when it came closer and closer to fruition, she discounted the property $300,000, which was a huge, obviously, support on her part and her family's. And then, of course, the county and the state grant. And when the county was hesitant, how much money do we want to, invest in the property? That's when the discussion about raising funds, I raised that I believe that I could do that. And I think this is an example for all of us and the people, again, in the audience and watching. If you want to participate in something that the county is doing, a public-private participation is the best way to approach things, in my opinion. It doesn't always have to be just government money. It can be private funds as well. And I found very quickly that people are willing to support efforts that they believe in, and everybody believes in something different. But whether it be roads or whether it be parks or whatever, there's certainly opportunities that we can maximize that. So I'd ask Ben Anderson and Linda Listman, Randy and Mike, and we'll take a picture with.
We need a motion, Mr. Chair.
Do we want to do that before or after the
Yeah,
picture?
we kind of have
Okay.
to.
I'll move that.
Commissioner Persky will move the accepting the resolution and the funds of $150,000.
No, second.
I can second
Commissioner
it.
Notch seconds it. Any discussion?
Yes, I want to applaud you on those efforts, Jeff, because, sitting on the Park Commission, the way this whole thing unraveled and came about, I think a good number of players from yourself, Ms. Listman, those folks involved with the fundraiser, Ben Anderson, for coming up with the plan to get the grant funding. So I really appreciate your efforts, and it's going to be a tremendous asset to that area and to the whole county. Thank you.
Thank you. And it was the Painesville Area Community Foundation assisted in collecting the money for me. So there were a lot of people involved with this. So, with the motion and the second, any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. So the resolution and acceptance of the check is granted. We'll take a picture quick in the front. Randy's the auditor, so maybe he should take up the money. Maybe right there. Now, if it doesn't bounce, we're in good shape.
There we go, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here with me.
Linda?
Randy, keep that in safekeeping.
Okay, we approved the consent agenda, but we didn't do the agenda. I'm still learning my new role here, so I don't know if
We
have
did
to
do the
that.
agenda. We did the agenda,
Did we do the?
but now we have to
agenda?
do the
Okay,
consent
thank you.
agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And normally we do the modifications to the consent agenda when we get to it, and
So-
you're doing great.
Now the consent agenda then with those two items that we said earlier, F5 and F10 being removed from the consent agenda. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? If not, a motion would be in order.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Second.
Commissioner Notch moves the consent agenda, Commissioner Clark seconds it. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is approved. And then when do you want to talk about, should we do that under environmental services? or-
Yeah.
Or do you want to do it now, or you want to wait till environmental
Let's-
services?
Let's just do it.
How do you,
Environmental.
Should we do it now?
Do we have environmental services folks here?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
When do you want to do it, Shelley, now or?
You can wait till our item, we just.
Doesn't matter. Yeah,
Okay,
I'd wait.
okay, we'll do it under environmental services then. And then highway, we'll do under highway. So the first item on the regular agenda is G1, Health and Human Services. Approved community outreach. Melissa, welcome.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I'm Melissa Huberty. I'm the Human Services Administrator, and I have just two items on the consent agenda for Human Services. The first one is G1, and it's the Community Outreach Program Grant Agreement with the Community Adult Mental Health Initiative, and it's found on page 184. This grant is given to us for outreach efforts, and we spend it mostly on the support we do with the social worker in the jail, as well as helping people who are experiencing homelessness. The second item is G2, and it's claims paid on behalf of Human Services on page 186, and I'm available for questions.
Okay, any questions?
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of that item.
Okay.
Second.
Commissioner Clark moves, Commissioner Persky seconds, and when you say that item, I assume G1?
G1, yep. Sorry,
Any-
approve the Community Outreach Program Grant Agreement.
Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Grant approval is granted. And then for the,
So, just for clarification, Mr.
Commissioner
Chair,
Notch?
we don't have to do roll call because Lee is on.
Right. Oh, do you want us to make sure he's saying yes?
I guess we could.
I
do
think
that.
so.
That would be good, yeah.
There you go.
then I'll let you do a roll call if you want to, or is that good enough?
That's good enough.
Okay. Okay, so the next item then would be for the claims.
That was just information, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Well, it says, move to approve Health and Human Services consent items, and I didn't know if that was with that.
Yeah, the other
but
one says
just
just for
it can-
informational
okay.
only.
Got it.
I'll move the consent items, Mr. Chair.
We already did it.
We
Sorry.
just did that in the last motion then.
Oh, I thought you just did
You can
G1.
stay standing there
The other one's just informational, so it doesn't need a motion.
with Melissa's smile.
Yes,
Right.
exactly, with a smile.
Just stay there for a little bit, we
Mr.
can enjoy
Mr.
the
Chair,
moment.
just-
Well, we
Mr.
just have
Chair,
to open the Human Services
yeah,
Board.
we forgot to open, so you have to actually recess our meeting, open Human Services Board and close, but maybe for next time, I'm sure we can get grace.
We'll need to work on the motions a little bit
And,
better.
Mr. Chair.
I'm
just-
reading off my script.
You
Mr.
got
Chair.
10 more months.
I thought that got changed.
Mr. Chair, yeah, it's weird, it's a weird fluke in state law. We're the Human Services Board. I just wanted to, Steve and I serve on the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee. In our meeting this morning, Judge Andy Pearson, Jen from Corrections, Julie, I don't know if she is still in here. It was an amazing presentation. There you go. About GAP court, I mean, mental health court, but this is an innovation in Stearns County about the folks who are not competent, but really don't meet the mental health court level. And it was incredible. Maybe at some point we could have a short presentation for the board too, but just
Mr.
want to
Chair.
commend staff.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, that would be a great idea, and we'll have them come at some point if you're interested to provide information. It's an amazing, innovative
It is. Might help some legislators at the Capitol and maybe even the governor's office to get why trying to shift costs on DD to us would be really bad.
Okay,
That's all.
All right.
thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
All right, you too.
So we're caught up. Environmental Services is front and center for each one. Shelley?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Shelley Benson, Environmental Services Director. Would you like to take the consent item and do that now?
Why do we do that?
No,
Yeah.
We'll take that consent item first, and then
Okay.
I didn't know if you wanted to do Jody's consent item before mine.
No, we'll do
Okay.
that during the highway report.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
I checked with her and that works out, so.
Okay.
Yep.
So you pulled off the item which is for Elizabeth Fiedler for Sunny Mary Meadow, which is was a request for a conditional use permit application. And I'll let you guys discuss any items, the reasons and the concerns that you have.
Okay. Commissioner Persky?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I pulled that item, as you folks are quite aware, with the number of calls that you've received, the number of emails. And also before you, I put a petition that was given to me with 20 folks signing that petition in opposition to moving that forward, as well as input from the township, also asking us not to move forward with it. These folks are very concerned about their peace and quiet. They enjoy that peace and quiet that they have, and they treasure out in their homes. And if I just look at rural tourism, one of the items we have here on it, it says, the hours of operation shall not have an adverse impact on adjacent owners. Well, the way that CUP is written, it leaves open-ended for music to be provided from 6 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night with no parameters necessarily on that music. And so that was not necessarily even discussed in the public hearing. But that issue was brought up after the public hearing was closed. So I think it's in our best interest and the interest of those people in that community out there and the township supervisors that we perhaps move forward and have our own public hearing on this issue.
Okay. Yes, we certainly got enough emails and phone calls with concerns, so.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Notch?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment. This is one of those where I must say everybody acted very respectfully when I called them back or emails, and a lot of times it ends up being so emotional that people aren't very nice, whether it's the commissioner, staff, or whoever, or locals. But the other thing I will say, I think Liz and probably the township heard the concerns of the area residents, and I would think that if this got approved, they would respect those comments. I listened to the planning commission. I spent an hour. A lot of this was talked about. Granted, it was after a public hearing. Would the public hearing have swayed the planning commission? I'm not sure. My own opinion is, I think, the road issue with 360th is a township issue. So hopefully the township heard that if something does happen. And the second thing is, I think, Liz probably heard enough from the neighbors that I would think if this went through, she'd be respectful to those opinions. And I guess that's why I would say if the planning commission approved this, what was it, 7-0, 6-0? I just think I think they can all be respectful enough to appreciate the neighbors. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Persky?
Mr. Chair, to the contrary, that would be a travesty. Because if we take a look at what's happening out at Milk and Honey, okay, that is open-ended. They could have live concerts out there from 6 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, the way the CUP is written. Ms. Benson, is that not true? They could have live music from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. Is that not true?
Shelley?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Persky, I'm going to have Jennifer review the CUP portion. They did talk a significant amount about outdoor music, and I'm going to have Jennifer go through the conditions that would be placed on outdoor music.
Good morning, Commissioners. So the recommended conditions from the Planning Commission state that days and hours of operation are 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Outdoor music is allowed from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. So the music would be done by 8 p.m. And then the next condition would indicate 15 special events per year are allowed and music may go till 10 p.m. And then during these events, the music goes till 10 p.m. And then the next condition indicates the outdoor music is only allowed on the property provided the noise levels comply with Minnesota Rules Chapter 7030, which is the MPCA state noise standard. Noise levels exceeding that are a violation of Minnesota rules, the county ordinance, and the CUP.
Jennifer, just for the record, state your name and your position so the public can.
Yes, thank you. Jennifer Buckentine with Environmental Services Department.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark?
A question I had, and I very much agree. There was lots of people who wrote to us or called and appreciate how thoughtful they were. I do think that somehow some things have gotten lost in communication or translation. Because I think there's a lot of worry and fear that this is something different than what is really being proposed. A question I had for staff to talk about is, aside from looking to build a new building, what of the things that the applicant's looking for could be done already? Which things are, because part of what people are worried about after I've talked to you, I mean, it sounds like they could do a lot of these things. They're trying to do a building to go ahead and change update some of it. So if you could just speak to that. One of my bigger concerns about moving to a public hearing is, I guess I have two. One is that people were noticed and there was a public hearing already and it was unanimous. And then second is trying to help us be, all of us, like how do we help bring the temperature down about and what perhaps parameters need to be about what people can legally do anyways, and how not to get where one place there's a concern with some neighbors, translate to the whole county, because otherwise we're leading with no instead of leading with yes. So if you could just address what are they able to do now, and what does that mean? I mean, in terms of, because obviously we want people to be good neighbors.
Sure.
Jennifer?
Yes, Commissioners. To answer your question, Commissioner Clark, as they currently exist, they're allowed to farm, so to do the flower farming. If they chose to register a provisional use as a temporary use, special event, that is something in our ordinance that allows you to have up to 15 events per year where they could host things, and that is allowed as a provisional use. So it's a simple registration form that they fill out stating they'll comply with the standards in the ordinance. No public hearing for that. So that would be in their right currently.
So, Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Clark.
part I was thinking about was if an individual had some property and they wanted to have people come over, they could have people come over, they could have music. They just need to make sure they're not exceeding noise limitations, et cetera, and hopefully being good neighbors. I mean, they don't need either of the permits for that. Is that correct?
Jennifer?
Yes, Commissioners, for hosting their own private events, their own personal events, parties, that certainly is allowed. If they have graduations they want to host within their own family, weddings, whatever. Anything, though, that's offered to the public does need some sort of review and approval from our office, whether it be a provisional use registration or conditional use permit with a hearing.
I think my concern is obviously we've heard, and most of us, I think, got all the emails and the calls. And as Commissioner Notch said, I think we all react and respond to all those differently. But in all the conversations I had, my biggest concern is, and I think it does warrant to have our own public hearing, is this certainly has evolved. I talked as recently as yesterday to the township supervisor, and somebody said something about a notification. There were some people that, again, we know how this goes. People don't understand exactly what the item is, and suddenly they didn't, and they admittedly said, we should have showed up at Planning Commission, but we didn't because we didn't understand it was going to become this. So a lot of those, it evolved into something more than what it started out as. The township yesterday, the supervisor chair said it was a simple approach request. Did County Highway, by the way, weigh in on this? County Road, is it 2 that is the main court? Yeah.
Yes, Commissioners, the County Highway Department simply asked clarification if the access to this new building would be from the county road, which it's not proposed to be. So they didn't have further comments.
Okay, but it certainly has evolved to how many people, how many events, the time of the events, music. Everybody I talked to has no issue with the flower part or anything else. And some of them even said we wouldn't be opposed to having some events, but much more narrowed down. If we learned anything, when I was first appointed to the Planning Commission, it was drilled into us. When you do CUPs and everything else, have the conditions be very clear, because that way, that's the best roadmap to use moving forward, that nobody misunderstands what that is. To me, today, the conditions aren't as tight as they need to be, knowing that it kind of evolved to where it's evolved. And as recently as yesterday, the county attorney, in another matter, shared with some of us that the county, assistant county attorney wasn't at the Planning Commission meeting. This is for another issue, but they mirror each other, in my opinion. And had they been, they would have a flavor for the conversation and what exactly was said and everything else, which of course, that's why we have tapes and we'll review those tapes and everything. But it is important, I think, to make it very clear what the conditions are under each of these circumstances. And I was a little taken back by the number of the hours that potentially music could be played. And of course, the minute they said the state standards, the staff said, that concerned me because we're having that trouble now is defining what those standards are. So I think it would be a missed opportunity for everybody, as Commissioner Notch said, for both sides, because nobody's saying, I don't want nothing there. They're saying, we're open to having some things there, but we want it to be more clearly defined. I think it's our job and our rule. Again, the other thing that was pounded into us when I was on Planning Commission was make sure that you prevent future problems. Do your work, allow the activities, but make sure you prevent future problems for the area. And I don't think this does it. So I think it would be a huge misstep on our part by not having our own public hearing, hearing from more people now that they know what this is, having a much more clear direction of where we want this to go, and then do that. That's my 2 cents.
Mr. Chair.
Actually, it was more like 5 cents, I think.
That's
Commissioner
good.
Clark.
I'll try to keep it to 2 cents, but although 2 cents also costs more than 2 cents.
Correct.
So, I think one of the things you didn't mention, and will be true whether we have a public hearing or not, is we time and again, it's hard whether it's an ordinance, a permit, or a law to, for lack of a better term, legislate human behavior. I mean, this actually has to be a lot about relationships and trust, and there clearly are some relationship challenges in a different place in the county. And again, we don't want to start anything off in a different place. So regardless of what we do, I just want to encourage people to be coming together and talking with each other to figure out this, because we actually can't do anything about that. I mean, ours is really about land use. I mean, our planning and zoning is really about that. We need to, like we tried to do some things with the vacation rentals. We've done a pretty good job there, and we know that people still need to talk to each other. So regardless of what we do, I'm going to personally encourage you and others to be communicating with each other so that there can be a good opportunity in the future. We know another one is coming from a different part of the county. And these three don't have anything to do with each other, with the exception that there's hoping to have some music. And again, human behavior, not the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department has other things to do. People need to figure out how to work with each other. I guess that was 3.5 cents.
And Commissioner Clark, those are all good points. And again, it was pointed into us not to create potential conflict. And I agree with you. I was on the City of Painesville Planning Commission for years, on the County Planning Commission for 16 years. Every time someone talked to me about something they were thinking of doing before it was more formalized, I told them, have you talked to the neighbors? And 90% of the time I'd get the deer in the headlight look like, why should I talk to the neighbors? I always told them, go tell the neighbors what you're looking to do, what you're planning to do. One, it'll help you evolve what it is that you're asking for. Two, it will educate them that they know what you're gonna do. Then there's no secrets, or again, government, you're right, can't solve all the issues. However, the looser we leave this, the more obvious conflict we're gonna have. And again, as recently as yesterday, the county attorney said, we really need to, the mistake we made is that it wasn't more defined, it wasn't more specific, and now we can't do anything about it. So let's not, make the same mistake, in my opinion. Commissioner Notch.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, Mr. Chair, I also talked to Supervisor Lauer yesterday, because my concern was, everybody just talks about the second approach, but he did tell me he knew the building was also part of this project. What just like what you got here from the township basically was the potential noise pollution hour of operation, 15, some of those types of events. So I don't know, I guess maybe I have more confidence that people will work together and resolve this. And maybe not, maybe I'm totally off base, but that's just my opinion.
It kind of reminds me of my dad would always say, a good fence line makes a good neighbor. You can kind of say that the line is kind of here, or you can have a fence line, that's the line. And I think that's what we're missing.
But until they survey it, you don't know if it's on the right
Well,
spot.
then maybe survey it.
Right.
And again, that's a public hearing, in my opinion. Our public hearing would survey it, and we'd know exactly where the line is. Commissioner Persky.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Notch, I'm just having a difficulty understanding why you would be so permissive of this when we've got people that just want to have the parameters spelled out of what the heck is going to happen on that property. Jennifer, how many people can be on that property, according to the CUP?
Yes, Commissioner Persky, the CUP didn't restrict it.
There's no restriction. That means that then they could have a concert there, and I believe they could have up to 900 people, 999. Is that correct?
That would be before a large gathering, correct?
Yeah.
But now you're making an assumption.
Well, absolutely. That means they,
That's not what we're
that
here
means,
for.
no, that means they could do that,
Well,
right? That means they could do that. I'm not making an assumption. That means that CUP says they can have 999 people on that property.
but they could do that right now.
Commissioner.
No, they can't.
Commissioner Persky.
Yes,
Yes,
they
they
can.
can.
Commissioner Clark.
Yes, they can. So I think maybe
Let's go
staff
through the
could
chair.
clarify,
Slow things down.
if you could clarify, Mr. Chair.
Shelley.
Mr. Chair, just for everyone's information, the large gathering is $9.99, but as indicated by staff, we do allow for provisional use. So right now, if someone walked into our office and asked for provisional use to do so many events, we would allow them to do so. All they have to do is meet those standards. And they could have up to 999 people 15 times to do that provisional use, and nothing is said about it.
Right now. No
Correct.
Right now.
As is, right now.
And
But they'd have to come to the office and request
Commissioner
that.
Persky.
Correct.
Shelley.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, that is correct. We would have to go through that process of provisional use, but it's not a public hearing, but any party can come in and ask for that. So if someone wants to create an amusement venue, so to speak, and do something 15 times a year, they can do that. One example, like Berg's Barn, they have events where people come so many days in the year, and they get a provisional use. They didn't have to do a public hearing. It'd be, similar to those kinds of things that would happen.
And of course, where things happen matter as well. I mean, we can do one sand pit, CUP or IUP in Bruton and Belgrade, and nobody shows up. We do one in, between Rockville and Way Park, and 250 people show up. So where you do it, Red-Headed Creamery in Bruton can pretty much do what they want to do because they're not going to affect people. You know, it's not as dense as this is. So where you allow things, and that's why you have a planning commission, that's why you have CUPs, you adapt those. And again, half of these issues have not been discussed, in my opinion, to the level that they need to because it evolved. And even a couple of the planning commission members, when I talked to them, said, well, this is information we weren't aware of. I made the foolish mistake of taking the application, all the emails, everything with invocation. I highlighted it in yellow. I'm confused. There's one place it says 40, one place it says 80, one place it says 160, one place it says the number of events. And again, just for everybody's purposes, you know, if you're going to tell someone to do something, that's why you have employee evaluations. When you have expectations, you write them down and say, this is what the expectations are. And then there's no misunderstanding of just go out there and do your job. And right now, I think it's way too loose. And again, for everybody's, for both, the good news is my opinion is nobody's saying nothing. We don't want nothing to happen. And I think you're right. Chair Lauer said, yep, we knew there'd be a building and, you know, the approach, but we did not, he also told me, we did not know this, this, and that. So again, was that their fault? Well, maybe. And did they do a checklist when the CUP comes and then we send them that checklist of what their thoughts are? Did they submit that? Do you know?
Oh, Mr. Chair, the findings of fact questions, is that what you're after?
What we always send the townships when there is something. Didn't we start doing like?
Mr. Chair, yes, good question. We typically have only used that for rezonings, so we did not get anything formal like that.
Because he didn't think, I said maybe you missed it and he didn't know, but you know, normally we have, because they certainly have input that they would like to submit now. And again, deferring to local government, I think they certainly should have that right. And again, the more we explain this to people, the better off we're going to be, in my opinion, long-term. Commissioner Knott.
So, Mr. Chair, does St. Wendell Township have planning and zoning?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Knott, yes, they do.
And that's separate from their supervisors?
I believe so.
And was that part of the packet at Planning Commission that the township signed off on it?
I don't, Mr. Chair.
I don't remember seeing it.
Commissioner Knott, yeah, I don't believe we got anything formal in writing, but I will look real quick here.
I didn't see anything except for the approach permit.
Mr. Chair, on the information that I was given too, the only information the township and the planning commission was given was on the approach. And Mr. Chair, if I may add, last Tuesday night, I was invited to the township meeting. And I will tell you what, I asked residents to be very respectful and make comments as how they felt about this issue. I was invited by the supervisors. We listened to a testimony. There were 14 people that were opposed to moving that CUP forward as it was written. All they wanted to do is have a conversation about what should be done on that property. But they didn't get that input at the public hearing when we held it out at the service center. There was no talk about the music. It was only about the operations of a flower shop. And they felt they were shorthanded. There were 14 people that were in favor. I asked, is there anybody in support of moving forward, of just having this music? There were 0. And so I think we owe it to the people that are here, the people that are on this petition. We owe it to that township. We're not saying no, Commissioner. We're just saying, let's work this out. Let's put those parameters on there that we can all come together and say, yeah, it's a great operation. We support it. We want it to move forward. But to leave it open-ended like this, we know what's going on at Milk and Honey because we left it open-ended. We don't know how many people are going to be there. We don't know when these activities are going to take place. Just let's have the discussion. So if you want to just stay firm and try to move this forward, Commissioner Clark, I plead to you to have some rationale about at least having a discussion about this instead of just slam dunking it.
Actually, so, Mr. Chair, one of the things, and I know you're not trying to put any intents on me. I know that.
No.
So I know you're living a challenging place on a different property. So I just want to name that. And I can't imagine what you're going to start doing, how little sleep you're going to get if you're worrying about everybody everywhere, right? So people, this is, again, regardless, there's part of me this is not part of our normal way of doing things, but it's like, not you or one of us, but it's the township meeting with the applicant. What is going to happen differently before we come, or is it going to be respectful venting again? Because, I think about other places that are out that way too. There's really no reason if they're inside they couldn't have music. That's really not about us. When you're talking about even the numbers, they were talking about groups not coming in for bridal showers or other things. I actually thought it was really pretty well done for something like this. If you read it, you can see where the different pieces are going to be. Personally, I recognize the pain point. I mean, there's a lot of people who are really worried. I do question what's going to be different when we come here. Like, truly, what would be different? Sometimes I wish we had a place in all of this that there was mediation or work for folks. I mean, if she wanted to grow a stinky crop, there was nothing we could do about it. If she wanted to have a whole lot of noisy animals, there's nothing we could do about it. I mean, how do we help bring the temperature down, which is not our board's, that's not our role. Human beings have got to go and talk with each other. So if we were to have a public hearing, which again, I know there's a huge pain point here, I'd hope there could be enough time so that people could go and talk and work some things out. And it's very clear this isn't just being about a flower shop. I mean, I think it's pretty clear in there. And I also get that word of mouth can kind of keep going. I've been subject to that too. Not me about applying for something, but about, oh my gosh, this is what they're going to do. So how do people work with each other so that they feel comfortable that they're not going to, kind of jump the shark, as it were. And again, I hear that people are worried. Farm practices change, business practices change. How much are we going to get involved in micromanaging somebody's business too? So help me understand what's going to be different between now and when we have a public hearing in terms of what's going to happen outside of this room. Because we already have all the emails. We already have all the phone calls.
And
And
I
Mr.
think,
Chair,
Mr.
my
Linsmeyer
question's
might
to
have a-
Commissioner Persky on that.
yep, and Commissioner Clark, I think those are all good points. And from my perspective, to give Joe some time to calm down, this is his district, and obviously those of us that have to deal with issues within their district are always more sensitive. Don't ever stop being sensitive and doing that, because again, who's going to get the calls? I mean, so in my opinion, what would be different would be that it's going to be more defined. It's going to be much more defined of what can happen. Again, the same thing when I went through the whole application, everything. It was the flower cutting and then the flower, I don't know what you call it, when they cut the flowers and make arrangements and everything else, to all of a sudden bridal showers, corporate parties, weddings. I saw these things in different places and I thought, okay, well, what is this going to be? I mean, a wedding is totally different than a bridal shower. I never went to a bridal shower, but my wife certainly has. I don't think they ever get out of hand. I've been at a few weddings that they've gotten out of hand. So again, a flower cutting event won't get out of hand, but again, it's on us. And again, unless something's changed since I got on planning, but it was pounded into us that you define those things to make a clear,
Mr. Chair? I guess what I was trying to say is what's going to happen before they come. Because us trying to come up with conditions on the fly, I'm not sure is great. And I will tell you, one of the things that I looked at, and again, I really do trust that people will work together to figure this out, but they have to do that before they come in this space. What I was thinking about is when our oldest son and daughter-in-law got married, it was in a place right outside of Rochester. It was one of those first, I guess, wedding venues, but there was a place that was kind of like this nearby. They got all of the flowers from there. And you know what we did that morning before they got married? Her parents and us and some family members and a couple friends came and we made table arrangements. So when I was reading it, that's the kind of thing I was thinking about. honestly, I'm not sure she can't do that already because they could come in a building and do it. They don't need a CUP to do it. She's trying to have a different kind of building. So in my head, I'm also trying to remember, this is about a request about a building, and what does that mean? So anyways.
And Commissioner Clark, thank you. Again, it's beyond the building now. It's become beyond the building with the parking, the traffic, the number, if it's going to be 160, if it's going to be a wedding. Those are all very different activities. And again, let's just define that. And in my opinion, and what you're saying, I'm agreeing with the part that if everybody in this room doesn't hear us and doesn't talk to each other before they come back, we're not going to do it today. If we approve it today, township, we're not going to listen to them. We're not going to try to prevent obvious issues from happening. If we do have our own public hearing, that will give them the time to do what they need to do, both sides, and then come back with something that's reasonable. I will not support nothing. So, I mean, I do support even events, but again, under guidelines. Sand pits, we never allow sand pits, mining operations to operate 7 days a week, 6 to 7 or, 6 to 10 or any of, I mean, we have conditions on things, all of those for a reason, to limit the conflict.
And ironically,
Commissioner
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Clark.
really quickly, is our sand pits actually can do longer hours. So I mean, it's like 7 to 10. But anyways, because Mr. Lensmeyer, I think, was trying to get your attention.
Who?
Lensmeyer.
Lee.
Lensmeyer, we have one more board member.
Yep, Commissioner Persky.
Well, let Lee speak.
Okay, Commissioner Lensmeyer?
No, I'm listening with interest. On one hand, I would think my perspective here, we want to encourage more of these events. Are we actually discouraging it by slapping all these conditions on it? And I don't know where the happy medium is. When people take the initiative to do these sorts of things, if they start, when they look and see how many hoops they've got to jump through, I think it might discourage that activity. I think what I'm hearing these folks proposing, that sounds like a fun time. So let's not, discourage us any more than we have to. So I'm listening.
Thank you, Commissioner Lensmeyer. Can we do something with the volume? Because I'm having a hard time hearing them. But and again, I agree with you, Commissioner Lensmeyer. I personally would support all of the activities that they're looking to do, but with constraints. So don't discourage them, but don't leave it wide open. That would be my position. Commissioner Persky.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. Dr. Williams, we've been struggling with another property having issues, having the entertainment and working around the parameters. Just recently, didn't we have a conversation with the county attorney about making sure we spell those things out so that we don't have conflict, so that we don't leave the ambiguity in the CUP, that there's no management as far as what's going on and what's not going on. And that just creates a rift between, obviously now us commissioners, the folks that are here, the folks that are on the township board. Shouldn't we be spelling it out? I mean, wouldn't it help to have the county attorney weigh in to at least give us some guidance on what the heck we're doing? Because it seems like we're just creating more chaos instead of less chaos.
Mike?
Yes, we just had that conversation that perhaps, that in the past, I think there was an attorney at the planning commission meetings to help create the verbiage for the CUP. I don't know that hasn't occurred here. I mean, I think probably the county attorney's office has been involved here. They've been involved in the other one that we were talking about earlier. So, I think it's a matter of perspective, whether you think there's enough guidance in the CUP or not.
Shelley?
Mr. Chair, two things. We did have the assistant county attorney who was at that last planning commission meeting, so there was one there. Secondly, Jennifer did find that there were township minutes that were submitted I don't know, were they not in the packet?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, the township minutes did get sent to us after we sent out the packets to the Planning Commission for their January meeting. So we do have, Heidi informed me, we do have minutes from the township meeting when they went to them in December. Just indicating, so the minutes indicate that Liz Fiddler is in the process of getting a CUP for her business on the farm. Access will be on 360th. Motion by Volker, seconded by Lauer, was approved. All in favor to recommend the county issue the CUP for Liz to expand her Sunny Mary Meadows business. And then another motion, all in favor to approve access of the business to 360th Street and to approve an additional driveway. And this is what we require when new businesses are not on a principal or minor arterial, is the approval from the local road authority.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner
Yeah,
Persky.
and to that point, what was discussed and what was permitted was the existing business and the access to that, correct?
I just have what's in here. Yeah, they mentioned the conditional use permit for the business.
Right.
Because the business was operating without a CUP.
Correct.
Yep. So,
And it does mention the expansion, the request to expand her business with the new building. Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
and again, Commissioner Persky.
To Commissioner Clark's point about, coming together and working these things out, let's go ahead and work these things out and then come with a CUP that people can agree on. And then we'll have a chance to vote on it and move it forward. I have no problem with having music on the property to some extent, but the way the CUP is written, it leaves it extremely open-ended, and it can just be an event center. There's no parameters that keeps it from being that. And what I understand the CUP was that it was supposed to be a flower shop. And then we were told that, yes, we're gonna continue the flower shop, but you know what? We may have a bridal shower out there, or we may have a small wedding reception. That's what was presented. But leaving it open-ended leaves it to chaos. And I don't know why it would hurt us to have that public hearing and allow people to have input, say, yeah, I can live with those 15 events, but would I have to live with that music every weekend out of the year? Under the present conditions, yes, that would be permitted.
And again, I think we have to bring this to a head here. But I support all of the activities that they're asking for, but not as open-ended. If we do this, I won't put the sheriff in the situation. Do they want to show up at this venue as often as they've had to show up at the? Why would we do that? Why would we leave this so open that we would knowingly create issues for the township and for us, for Commissioner Persky, because it's his district, for the sheriff's office, rather than letting them come together and say, okay, yes, this is what we want to do. And again, I want to make it very clear, I support the variation of everything that they want to do, but this is wide open. I mean, this is just too wide open. So let's wrap this up. And I guess, again, out of respect more than anything for the, it's your district.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
I'm gonna, support having our own public hearing.
Mr. Chair, and I will tell you what, I'm taking this extremely serious. I see this being anything but fraud. When you talk about moving something forward without giving people the intent of what they're going to be doing, that you're willfully keeping information from them and getting something that you're not intending to get. Okay? What do you call that?
Mr. Chair.
And I think
what is it?
Those are.
I don't think
Those are powerful words, but what the heck is going on in this dais?
I think
Commissioner Clark.
I think I'm hearing you feeling very strongly about this. I don't think you're trying to accuse your fellow board members of fraud.
No, I'm not.
That's what your words were. I know you feel very strongly. The question is going to end up being what's going to be different.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Notch.
Okay, so.
And then we're going to wrap this up.
Right. And if I can ask the question of the applicant, if we have a public hearing, does March 14th affect any time frame? Because this is what
we're not going to open this up to the public.
Well, here's what I'm telling you, though.
Yeah.
This is my opinion. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to have this public hearing, and we're going to try and define what her hours are going to be. And if we don't come to a consensus, we could be at the same place we're right now.
And that's a very good point, Commissioner Notch. However, if we can't, if the applicant and the neighbors can't come to some agreement
That's
to
why
come
I
back
think
to
they
us,
have trust.
I'll give you my word, I'll vote for whatever they want to do. If they can't come to terms, if an applicant doesn't hear this and see read the emails and say, okay, I get this, we're neighbors, this is what I propose. If that doesn't happen, I'd be shocked, and I'll support wide open. If the neighbors can't come with the applicant and work something out, I'll support. But again, until that happens, I remember very well Commissioner Lenzmeyer, I like to make him laugh at least one meeting. When I was chair, I'd listen to everybody, and he would say, you don't need to listen to everybody. And I said, Lee, as long as I'm chair, we're gonna listen to everybody. And then when he wanted me to stop, he'd yawn real loud. That was a signal of wrap it up. And I kept listening to everybody. We need to listen to the people. And that has not occurred at this point. So that's my last point.
Okay,
Commissioner Notch.
My last point is, I think everybody in this room has heard this debate. And I would, in my honest opinion is, I think the applicant and the residents, there are parameters spelled out. And I think if they haven't heard loud and clear that we're concerned, I just think they can get this figured, they can figure out what's going on. I think the applicant understands the angst, and I'm not sure, number one, we're talking, I feel like we think the applicant's gonna have 7 days a week, something going on. I highly doubt there'd be anything going on for probably 6 months out of the year outside. So I guess I just feel, just with talking to the residents that have reached out to me and I've conversed with, they're all very respectful. Talked to Liz, very respectful. I guess I trust human beings can still live and work together without us getting in their way.
Well, and Commissioner Notch, I agree with you. We hope that too, but on the same token, the more open we leave this, it is not going to be defined. And what we're forgetting is the conditional use permit stays with the property. So that's great for the applicant today. 5 years from now, somebody else. And again, I must have really missed the boat on this when we were trained in Planning Commission. Pounded into us 3-4 things, and obviously with a big head, some of it doesn't stay in. But they said, don't look at the person in front of you. Look at the person after that. If somebody comes in, wants to build a house by the farm, somebody wants to come and do a business, don't look at that applicant. Look at the next applicant. Look at the next owner of that property. So a CUP stays with the property. So all the intentions, everything may be great. If we don't put the parameters on, what's the next owner going to do?
I'll call question.
Mr. Chair?
Call the question is a non-debatable. We'll have to go to the question. We'll have to do the vote.
No.
So the motion, there's no motion.
motion.
So I'm going to make
Okay.
a motion that we conduct our own public hearing. And when, do we do the date now, or do we do it if the motion passes?
If the motion passes.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we conduct our own public hearing to bring this in, that both sides can deal with this.
And Mr. Chair, you.
Is there a
we-
second to the motion?
wait, just really quick, Mr. Chair, you could put the date in if you want to.
Well, I asked, and she
I
said
know,
we
she said you don't
to.
have to, but we
Right,
can.
we can wait.
You can if you'd like.
We'll do it sooner than later. I mean, there's no point in waiting, in my opinion, but figure the date out. But right now, we got to see if we're going to do that. So the motion's been made. Is there a second?
I will second that, and I want some discussion, of course.
Okay, motion's been made to conduct our own public hearing by me, seconded by Commissioner Persky. Discussion. Commissioner Persky.
Shelley, as far as the request for the permit and in regards to Ms. Fiedler's business, I think, are we all in agreement as far as letting the size of the business, the buildings, and the flower shop is non-issue here? Are we in agreement to that?
I am.
I am. Okay. So what you see is we have a majority that says that flower shop is not a problem. We have a problem with the music and other activities between these two board members, all those people that are in the audience here, the township board have an issue with that because they never were heard. So we can go ahead and I think we can go ahead, if we reset that public hearing, okay? That she can go ahead with her plans for her business, as she does. But we're gonna deal with the parameters that we need to deal with that relate to the music. And we can come together and we can decide how that's going to happen. But if we move forward and pass it at face value that was submitted to the Planning Commission, that's a travesty. There's no question about it. We can work this together. We can be human beings and we can come to an agreement. You can have your flower shop, you just heard it here. But we're talking about the activities. And so let's hammer that out. So let's have that public hearing.
Mr. Chair. I'm sorry. wait a minute.
And on that point, have your flower shop, and in my opinion, have your events, but again, 7 days a week, whatever time, that's a little wide open. But again, I'm all for the events, I'm all for the different events, the number of people, I'm all for all that, but under a better understanding of what is today. Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hope the people who are listening at least hear me say, it's so important that you're getting to work together and appreciate your communications. And again, I was hearing and seeing a lot of worrying, and that's about human beings together. This actually is more contained than a gravel operation, generally is, just saying. But it's clear to me, at least in here, that there is an array of things that she's looking at doing. If we do go to a public hearing, I would hope then, what I think I'm here saying, this is not something we have in a process, that parts of this, there's already agreement. Not entirely sure. There was at least one person who wrote about concern about, even with the building. But if it's really not about us, but about them figuring out some things, because with all due respect, we could say nothing about music, and there's still a lot they could do. And it's just important that we recognize that, and that one place isn't the same as another place. Because again, I want you to be able to sleep at night.
And again, Commissioner Clark, we can take people for their face value, and I certainly do, but it's not going to be the same people that we're looking at today.
That's my point, Mr. Chair.
So, okay, with that, all those in supporting the motion to conduct our own public hearing, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Nay.
Do you want to do a roll, Randy?
Yeah. Commissioner Clark,
Nay.
Commissioner Persky,
Aye.
Commissioner Notch,
Nay.
Commissioner Lenzmeyer,
Nay.
Commissioner Bertram.
Aye.
Motion fails 3-2.
Okay.
Gosh, blew an opportunity.
I think we're beyond that, Lee. We'll go to item H1.
We still have to make a motion.
Still have to pass it, right?
The consent agenda item, okay. So, one of you three,
Lee was speaking.
well, is there a motion or is there speaking? Somebody got a motion?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
move it.
Okay. Commissioner Notch moves to approve the consent agenda item.
I'll second.
Commissioner Clark seconds it. Okay, discussion on the motion to approve the consent agenda item. Okay, Lee, did you want to talk?
No,
Okay. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll.
Commissioner Persky,
Nay.
Commissioner Notch,
Aye.
Commissioner Lenzmeyer,
aye.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Bertram.
Nay.
Motion carries 3-2.
Commissioner, I'm not feeling well. I'm gonna have to excuse myself.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, it's a disservice, to say the least. Okay.
Mr. Chair?
H1.
Yes, we have item H1. I have two staff members here, Supervisor Becky Schlorf and Angela Beckman, who is our water planner, and they are here to go through all three items for you.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I'm Becky Schlorf, Ag and Water Supervisor. The first two items are both related. They are related to the Mississippi St. Cloud Watershed. And the first item is for your approval and authorization to sign the Mississippi River St. Cloud Watershed Joint Powers Agreement for implementation of the Comprehensive Water Management Plan. Currently, the group is operating under a memorandum of agreement, and that is for the planning phase. They've developed the plan, which is the next item on your agenda for the approval of that. But the implementation will come with dollars from the state, and for that, the state does require a formal structure. The policy committee members decided to do a joint powers agreement. The Stearns County Attorney's Office has met with the other partners, county attorneys, and developed this joint powers agreement. The MOA, or Memorandum of Agreement, will terminate upon the formation of this. I can take any questions that you might have on this.
Okay, any questions, Commissioner Notch?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, does a joint powers have levy authority?
I do not believe so. In the, let's see here, packet page, it does state that their source of funds on packet page 157, funding of the entity and the implementation of the plan shall be limited to grant revenues, gifts, and monies, including any accrued interest from any person, entity, or association. So they're not going to be having levy authority.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this basically the group will be able to get the state funds and very much appreciate. I've served on the policy committee. Commissioner Lensmeyer is the alternate. The group as a whole felt more comfortable with doing as a joint powers entity, including after MCIT came and spoke with us. But they have agreed that there will always be an opportunity before a bigger vote to bring it back to our boards, because basically we said we wanted to do that. I mean, it's really an important thing. So it might operate just a little bit differently than the SOC does, but not by much. Would that be fair?
And Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
when you say for a bigger vote, I'm not clear what you mean by that.
We're putting in for funding. We're going to come back and do updates so people know. I mean, if there's, we're kind of making sure that we're all getting to hear and know. We have an agreement in the SOC, and what that means is each of the boards has to vote. This is the entity that legally will have the responsibility, but more than a courtesy, we'll be coming back to be making sure that each of our respective boards are, I'm going to say okay with it. Is that the right way of saying it, Ms. Schlorf?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Clark, yes, I would say it's upon each board's or each partner to do that, but yes, to make sure that their board is in support of the decisions being made by that JPA.
Right.
And again, just clearly for the grants and things like that, not the levy as Commissioner Notch has. No levy.
Correct.
It'd be approval for the grant application. Okay, got it. Okay, any more discussion? on
Mr.
that?
Chair,
Other-
I'll move approval.
So the motion would be to approve the Mississippi River St. Cloud Watershed Joint Powers Agreement for implication for the Comprehensive Water Management Plan. Commissioner Clark makes that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Notch seconds it. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Next item, H2.
The second item that I have for you is to approve a resolution to adopt and implement the Watershed Comprehensive Management Plan. So this has gone through a public comment period of 60 days. The public hearing was held by the policy committee back in December. Comments were taken, an adjustment was made, and the partners and the Bowser, the Board of Water and Soil Resources, has approved the plan as well. They approved it end of January, and then we have, or each partner has up to 120 days to adopt the plan and begin the implementation. With this resolution, the county would just have the fourth watershed area left to do the planning process, which is the Mississippi Sartell watershed. So with this resolution, this then takes over for our local county water plan.
Okay, thank you. And when you said input was received from bureaucrat types or the public?
From the public.
Public.
So we did receive comments from the public.
Correct.
And how many?
Mr. Chair, I'm not aware, I guess, of the count. I know that at the public hearing, some of those citizens did attend and spoke to the concerns that they had, and like I said, an adjustment was made. It was not in our area, in our county, it was in another county's area.
And I'm just curious, what were the concerns?
I'm trying to remember, I think it was a prioritization, I think of a lake, a water body. The section of the watershed was not included, if
Okay.
I remember correctly.
And Mr. Chair, I believe it was like a.
Commissioner
buffer-
Clark?
Thank you. It was like a buffer area.
Yeah,
They were just trying to figure out whether it was in or out, if it would still be included, and staff was great about showing how that all gets worked out, and we put it forward, the staff, and we have a community, as they all do, a community advisory committee that really has been very active, and then all along the way, there has been public opportunities, and it's actually been really great. We were able to learn from some of the earlier ones. So, Mr. Chair, I will move, just to keep us going, adoption of the Mississippi River St. Cloud Watershed Comprehensive Management Plan.
So the motion would be to adopt the Mississippi River St. Cloud Watershed Comprehensive Management Plan. Commissioner Clark moves it, Commissioner Notch seconds it. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item H3.
and this is the last item I have for you. It's regarding the Aquatic Invasive Species Program. This is where we're looking for a motion to approve being a signatory on a letter to the governor in support of maintaining the base funding for the AIS prevention aid. The county has been receiving approximately $250,000 annually since 2015. The proposed budget is a reduction of approximately 50%, and the majority of our funds are spent according to our plan on inspections, so 70%. Our AIS committee members did want to see this letter or having the county sign this letter. In fact, many of them also took action on their own to let their voices be heard individually. So I can answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions, Commissioner Clark?
Thank you. I know that in general, together with AMC, we rarely do these kind of things. They want to keep it very, 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 very rare. I think there was one on CPA at one point. Was this done or talked about in conjunction with the AMC staff?
Becky?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Clark, there was a meeting arranged with AMC with the legislator. It fell through, so I didn't get the opportunity. And AMC as a whole, I'm not aware of what their action is at this point.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Clark?
I know it hasn't come to the board, because I serve on the board. This is really important, so there's a part of me that just wants to say, yeah, great. On the other hand, this is the smallest impact in some ways on our county of the governor's proposals. I mean, there are some massive ones, and those are being treated similarly to other practices. That's my only caveat. I think it's really great that the committee members want to do this. I know that won't surprise you.
Yeah.
But it's a small little concern, and I don't know, Mr. Chair, if Dr. Williams has any comments about that.
Mike?
I share that same concern about this, but since it was being adopted by so many other counties and entities, I
Yeah.
felt we needed to get it in front of the board.
Okay.
Well, that's certainly.
But we left it there because we thought you would be
Still
able to
learning my
support
way
it.
around here. The first thing I thought of was, I mean, we've been pounded in. I was at AMC chair training, stay in your lane, don't get involved in these things. I've been told that. There was 36 counties that passed resolutions on other items that we didn't even talk about. So there's nothing wrong with this issue, but yes, we kind of zigzag, and then we kind of, again, I have no issue with this issue, but the precedent that it sets, a month from now, when I want to talk about something, I'm going to be told, stay in your lane. Well, after I get off the card table and on the dinner table for Thanksgiving, I'm confused. So we can talk, Commissioner Clark, but it's not going to ease my angst on it. But go ahead, Commissioner Clark.
Mr. Chair, all I was going to say is this issue is in our lane. I mean, the topic is, it's definitely a county issue. It is definitely impacting us. It is definitely something that counties are going advocating to the legislature on. The question is solely about signing on to a letter when from a strategic standpoint, the more letters there are on more topics that are a county topic, the less effective they are. That is literally the only thing. This absolutely is a county issue. And again, we are lobbying on it. Like, don't do this, this is bad. In a way, because we've already adopted the AMC legislative platform and it would fit within that, we're already advocating on it. It's truly just about the whole letter. As Dr. Williams said, signing on a letter. There's a lot of counties on here already, and these funds are really important to our lakes. So again, topic in our lane. The question strategically is, are we going to now try to get people to do one on the DD waiver? Are we going to try to do them? That's my only question.
And Commissioner Clark, I don't agree with you, but that's fine. But in the future, at least pay me the respect when I want to talk about something that we talk about it equally this, and then we can debate whether or not it's in our lane or not. So, I mean, this does open that door. And that's fine. I'm all for that. Mike?
Well, Mr. Chair, I think this is a county issue, and had it been something that wasn't related, I would have applied the policy that the board has about not talking about some of those things. It might have hit someone might have requested it, because that can always be appealed, of course, and it can be placed on the agenda if the board wants. But this, to me, was clearly a county issue anyway.
And I don't disagree with that, as along with other issues that we haven't talked about, I believe were a county issue, but so be it. So is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Commissioner Notch moves, and the motion would be to approve being a signature on the letter to Governor Walz in support of maintaining the base funding for AIS prevention aid. Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second it.
Commissioner Clark seconds it. And then my only other point would be, do we just do it to the governor now? Or at some point then do it to the legislature later? Because what if they adopt his, I guess that's a strategy thing. Do you share it with everybody right away that they know up front it's a main position, and maybe the House and the Senate will include it? Or do we wait for them not to include it and then do separate letters? I guess that's a strategic question.
I guess, Mr. Chair, at this point, I'm just going with this letter. If there's anything
To the
else, we
governor.
would bring it forward.
And then if you did do it to the legislature, obviously that would come back.
That's what I'm saying, yes.
Okay, okay. So a motion's been made and second to approve the signature of the letter. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, now we have administration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have 3 items under administration this morning. The first is an appointment to the Airport Authority Board. The board held off on making that appointment until you could have the conversation with some representatives of the Airport Authority, which occurred the last meeting, anyway, in the recent past. And so you were forwarded 5 applications, and the Airport Authority enabling documents do say that if the board doesn't make an appointment, that the current appointee continues to serve. So we haven't been unrepresented on the Airport Authority board. But this is the process that the board thought we were going to take. After we heard from the Airport Authority, you would consider making that appointment. The term has expired. And until you would decide that these are finalists, you can speak about these candidates if you want to. And they're numbered, so you can, if you do want to have a discussion, you can speak. You can refer to those applicants as a number rather than their name.
Well, I think because the present board member can continue, I do believe by not reappointing, making that official action, I do believe that has accelerated the conversations with the Airport Authority. I don't think, based on what I was told by several people, that would not have happened quite the way it did had we immediately appointed application or reappointment of the applicant. I have nothing against the current board member. However, the old saying about if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. We pretty much were told what was going to happen, what was going to happen in 2026. And so to slow things down, I don't know that we've had the discussion that we need to have to reappoint the current board member. I mean, first, I think we should have the discussion of where is it that we really want to go with this. Comments from board members about having an actual commissioner on the board, changing the bylaws with the levy authorization, all those things. I believe those discussions should happen first. We're still represented. Then we can make that determination. That's my 2 cents.
What's your
And we certainly
point?
have more than one very qualified applicant. And one I think that would be more likely to change some of the direction and maybe force some discussions that have not occurred, in my opinion, at that board level. Members,
I think Lee was.
I think there's a fly in his room. He's doing this, so I don't think he's.
Well, he was saying
Lee,
something.
you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, what are we trying to accomplish? Okay, I just heard some discussion and I'm left confused. What, where do we want this to go? Who do we feel is not adequately represented? What are the opportunities here? Just for example, we have one of the applicants that has a significant military background, and there is a military component to the airport. Is that important? Give me some ideas here on where we want this to go.
Well, from my perspective, Commissioner Lenzmeyer, where I'd like it to go is to have more of a discussion at, again, I made the mistake again in that case to read all the minutes going back several months and to have more of a discussion about the levy, to have someone on the board that would be sensitive to say, well, let's hear from the county boards, or are we talking to the county board, or having that kind of discussion. The discussion was limited and it was unanimous. And as we all know, if everybody votes the same way, somebody's not thinking. And then all of a sudden, we got hit with that letter in September, October, that said, by the way, there's going to be $1 million levy. And that's the first one. And it's happening sooner than what some of us believe it should happen. And when the city of St. Cloud stops their funding, that will get worse. $1 million will look like a picnic. So what we're trying to accomplish, what I think we should at least think about accomplishing, and again, not acting on the appointment, would allow some more time to have these discussions, still would allow the current board member to serve. That doesn't mean that he couldn't be reappointed at some point, but it does a little bit leave it more, you're dating and you didn't propose, you don't have an engagement ring. And it just makes it a little bit more discussion, I think, potentially could occur more productively. Applicant number one has 30 years of military experience as well. So again, we've got 2 solid applicants, in my opinion. Commissioner Notch?
Mr. Chair, I really wouldn't see a problem seating the person that's already there, because I think the discussion you're asking for, I think, is something that administration can set up for us to have more of a conversation. I don't think the appointment creates any kind of issue, because the appointment is for how long, Mike? 2 years?
3 years.
3 years.
3.
And we have 2 appointments in Stearns County, correct?
Yes. Yeah, no,
And they're staggered, I'm assuming.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Mike?
Just in answer to the Commissioner Notch's comment, there was, the administrators will organize some kind of a conversation. We're kind of waiting until all 3 county boards get the presentation that we got a couple of weeks ago, and then we will try to organize something. But just so you know that. Yeah.
And I think, Commissioner Notch, to your point again, I think he's a great board member. But if we approve this and it's on a 3-year term, we were obviously concerned about what was happening. That's why we didn't do this the first time it was brought to us, to my mind, that sends a signal that, okay, we're over that now, but nothing changed. The levy's still coming in 2026. So I think again, I'm not saying we won't reappoint at some point, but if we don't reappoint officially now, that leaves that conversation ongoing. I mean, that's a 6-month plus conversation, in my opinion, of what we're gonna have to have. One, we have to have it individually as a county, and then we'd have to have it with Benton and Sherburne County as well at some point. So that's a 6-month to a 12-month discussion.
Right, so Mr. Chair, if we reappoint them, we're probably gonna be halfway through his reappointment before there might even be a change. So that's why I don't see the reappointment being really an issue at this point.
And again,
Just my comment.
yep, appreciate the comment. I disagree, and I'm sure I'm gonna be in the minority, but Commissioner Clark.
Mr. Chair, I very much appreciate the kind of the step back that was done to be making sure they were getting here. I think they got the message loud and clear. I think all of us have talked with both of our, I would say current and I guess former appointee who's still there, as well as with Bill Towler. I think that we're going to get an opportunity to continue to do work with them and perhaps make decisions about whether any of us want to start attending their meetings as well. I do still have concerns about the levy authority, and that's one of the things, I mean, I was really glad they've said, yeah, having a non-voting member. Apparently Benton and Sherburne have actually had members who have come in and sat in. So I think we've got some additional ways. One of the things I like about the current applicant is not only is he a current helicopter pilot, so it's part of the utilization of what's being done with the Guard there. He also has some pretty significant business experience, and going back to the public-private partnerships, it's been a long journey with this. We're unlikely, still can't bring myself to say never, going to have daily service again, which is what I personally think most people would like. But I understand he's been a valuable person, and I actually I'm going to move that we reappoint applicant number 5.
Okay, motion's been made to reappoint the current board member. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Lenzmeyer seconds it. Any discussion? And again, I'll just end by saying, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. Talking about putting a board member on, it's going to take 12 months for that to happen. Applicant 5 would be a great fit to that because he would see it as a, more from our perspective. So, and unlike what we were told we couldn't do, I will certainly get engaged with the board members and have conversations with them. And again, that's my expectation. I think you said applicant, you mean the current board member, which
Right,
is
but
an
I think for
applicant.
appointment, I mean,
But,
just trying to
I will say at least, again, I'll read the minutes, I'll attend the meetings at least, question it, and slow things down, and, don't just go along with everything. And again, from the county perspective, what people don't know, as I shared with this, when I brought this topic up, I didn't talk to one person that knew that we were part of an airport authority, and certainly did not know that there was a levy potential. And one thing I would like to find out, Randy or Mike, not now, I mean, but is there limits to that levy? I mean, could it be 5 million? Could it be? And so if you can answer that for us, that would be helpful. So again, once the city of St. Cloud steps out of the 620,000, and remember the levy would not apply to St. Cloud because they're contributing to the 620,000, this could become a black hole. And I hope it doesn't, but that's my concern. So the motion's been made, Commissioner Notch?
Yeah, well, and that was a concern when this originally started because we knew the situation. That's why with the 10 years, we hoping that the authority could get this thing up and running, which, we've seen some positives. And I'm not sure, in my opinion, they heard us loud and clear. I mean, I've had discussions with some of the people on that board, and I don't think they're going to take us lightly anymore. And I don't think by us reappointing the current member that we're just saying, oh, okay, we're over it. I don't think any of us are over it. I don't think we will be over it because we're gonna probably see this come every year. And hopefully it's a conversation. And I know we're all invited to attend their board meetings, so I'm hoping in the future to be able to attend a couple as well, because I'd like to listen to the discussions. That's all I have.
And that's why, Commissioner Notch, I assume you voted against it, and Commissioner Merrigan voted against it, but again, it was 3-2. It was obvious to a lot of people this could potentially happen, and it is happening. And again, at my age, part of the problem of getting older is that I pay less attention to what people say and watch what they do. If they come in with a different action, then I'm going to take them for their word of what they told us. But at this point, that's just lip service. Until something changes, it's the same, in my opinion.
Isn't there a motion and a
Commissioner
second?
Lenzmeyer?
Isn't there a motion and a second on this already?
There is.
Well, let's vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were the chair. With a motion made and seconded, in no more discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, aye. Randy, you want to do the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Lenzmeyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Notch.
Aye.
Commissioner Bertram,
Nay.
it passes 3-1.
Okay,
We can make that, the name public. It's Marshall Grams, who is currently the appointee.
correct. Next item is I-2.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is I-2. This is much more how I prefer that we handle our legislative issues rather than one-offs with a bunch of other entities. But when we get asked, I think it's important that we consider the request. This is a request to, or an addition to our state legislative priorities. This is a bill that's been created by Avivo. I don't know that they have authors yet, but the language has been created and would actually allow them to bill more, a higher rate for the services they provide to people that they're serving. So, and if you know anything about Avivo, they certainly do take in people that have high needs. It's a low barrier entry facility, and we've been trying to figure out a way that Avivo can locate here in the St. Cloud area. They have a grant that would allow the construction of a facility. It's the operating budget that seems to be more of a challenge today. This would be a significant step forward if a bill like this were to pass. And I think it would, it would just help that operating budget greatly. And so it's recommended that we put this as one of our legislative priorities so we can communicate that to our legislative delegation.
Okay, Commissioner Clark?
Mr. Chair and Dr. Williams, I, in some ways, was heartened to see this. There is going to be requests to be increasing what the reimbursement rates are for entities such as this at the Capitol. This fits well within the broader work that both our county and AMC has been doing, and I think it even fits with some of the population, Commissioner Notch, we were hearing about this morning. So with that, I will move, just to keep us going, I'll move approval of the addition of the Housing Support Supplementary Services Bill to our legislative priorities.
Okay, that accurately reflects the motion, so Commissioner Clark moves it.
A second.
Commissioner Notch seconds it. Mike?
Just to let you know, Mr. Chair and members, that Benton County and Sherburne County have been active in talking with Avivo. It's been a 3-county effort, and both those counties have, I don't know exactly how they do it, but they're supporting this as well.
Okay, so they may not do it like from a board action?
Well, no, they all did it from a board action.
it.
Sherburne, I think, does a document like ours, and so they've added it. I'm not quite sure how Benton does it, but they did take action to support it. The board did, yes.
Got it. Okay, so a motion's been made and seconded to approve the item. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passes. Next item, I3.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is something we do annually, and particularly do it before the NACO Legislative Conference approve priorities for the legislative priorities at the federal level. I think you've seen most of these items before. I do have staff here. If you do have questions, the topic experts are in the room. And so I don't know that we need to go through these. They're summarized in the board action sheet and in the document that's attached. We can do it however you want, but they're there for your action. We are scheduling at this time meetings for those that are going to be in attendance at the NACO Legislative Conference in early March. And so when the board does approve something, we will forward those to our lobbyist, and you will be armed with these when you go talk to our Congress people.
Okay. So,
Looking for a motion?
yep,
I'll make a motion to approve the federal legislative priorities as spelled out in our packet.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay.
okay, Commissioner Clark moves the motion, Commissioner Lenzmeyer seconds it. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, motion passes. Do we need a break?
Yes. Very quickly.
We need a break. Let's take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passes.
My next item, K2, is I'm asking the board to approve Stearns County Highway right-of-way plat number 69 related to SAP 073-602-051. And this is a County Road 2 reconstruction from 421st Street to County Road 1 north of St. Stephen. Typically, right-of-way plats would go on the consent agenda. However, I know that the board has heard quite a few concerns about this project. Just the proposed project is in the approved 5-year road program for 2025. The board in the past has hired or approved hiring Houston Engineering to perform the design. And at 2 recent county board meetings in January, residents along this section of County Road 2 did speak against this project moving forward. I did send out the agenda item and several of the attachments to some residents. One thing I do want to point out, first of all, I also handed out an aerial map ahead of the board. After I had submitted the agenda items, it became clear that I misunderstood one of the residents, wanted us to look at a different alternate coming off of that curve on County Road 2. And so you'll see that this no longer goes straight down to County Road 5, but it matches back in with County Road 2. I did want to hand that out to the board as well, just to, before I get into that discussion, wanted to make sure you have that in front of you. So just a little bit of background. County Road 2 is a minor arterial roadway. With minor arterial roadways, much like any state aid roads, there are certain requirements when we use certain types of funding. So if we are going to reconstruct this road, with it being a minor arterial, we are required to put 8-foot shoulders, paved shoulders on the road. This is one of the last sections to be reconstructed. The last section is the very southerly termini near Watkins in the county, and that will be done in 2028. So again, the entire stretch of County Road 2 would have 8-foot shoulders. The board did receive a couple of emails since submittal of the board agenda items, and then there was one email that I received that was not sent to the board, so I do want to touch on those as well. And I included some other letters in the board packet and a petition as well. Mary Kay Muehlbauer emailed. She is still concerned and thinks that, and I can just read it as well. I understand where the county has to be partial to neighbors when making a decision on whose property they take on a construction project. However, as Jody stated in her email, exceptions to the rule of course exist. Here's one of those exceptions. If you are talking safety reasons, then let me mention again that the new right-of-way will be 27 feet from the corner of my house. I understand the road alignment isn't changing. However, 5 to 6 months a year we get snow, and where do you think those snowmobilers are going to travel? On the roadway? No, of course not. When we get so much snow, they can't determine where the ditch starts and where it ends, and now they are within 27 feet of my house or closer. I have 4 grandchildren who love to play outside and slide down our hill, just like their parents did. How do I keep my grandchildren safe from getting hit by one of those snowmobilers who are bar hopping from Rice to St. Stephen? How do you suggest I keep them safe from one of those snowmobilers hitting them as they are outside? This is Grandma's safe zone, or at least it should be. This is why you need to move this project to the south side of the road. I've attached several pictures from last fall of the south side of the property. As you can see, the county could take 100 feet in the neighbor's property, and they would still have enough trees as a noise blocker if this is what they are concerned with. I guess it boils down to trees or the safety of people's lives. Thank you for your attention. Mary Jo Wallenstein, representing her mother's house. This is toward the westerly termini of the project. She also had pictures attached, and again, I understand the entire board got these. So she wanted to write this email to elaborate. Her mother has lived at 7930 County Road 2 for the past 25 years. Within that time, we've had 2 vehicles go off the road, down the ditch, and proceeded to hit the fence she previously had in her front yard. We finally had to remove the fence because it was no longer sturdy enough to remain standing. We also had another person that came from the south on County Road 2, went through the stop sign and ran directly into her house, knocking it off the foundation. Thankfully, my mom was not in her bedroom, as this likely would have caused her to have a heart attack. She happened to be standing in the kitchen, was very shaken and scared when it happened. We had another person that was coming from Rice, heading toward St. Stephen, and hit the approach in her yard. There were tracks and ruts in the ditch that we had to repair. Just last year, we had to pick up car parts in her driveway, and in the ditch from someone running into her garbage can. All of these incidents took place during non-winter months. There was no snow or ice on the roads. This was simply due to bad, impaired driving and/or medical conditions. With the proposed changes of widening the road and leaving the center line as it is today, it is causing a lot of concerns for the homeowners along the north side of the road. And then she talked about the pictures that she had attached to the email. The concerns that we have with the proposed changes are dramatically impacting the homeowners on the north side of the road. First, this is going to significantly impact the ability to ever be able to sell this home, inability to add on or modify the home or garage, the roadway being so close to the house and driveway, only being able to have 2 cars in the driveway, and the closeness of those cars to traffic going 55 plus miles per hour. No vehicle bigger than this will even fit in the driveway. Secondly, and most importantly, is the safety issues with the road being this close. The high speed of traffic on the road, 55 miles per hour plus, this close to the house. Number of accidents that have already occurred on her property alone, this would escalate the probability of personal and property damage. Would not want any child to be in the front yard for fear of cars going off the road and driving at fast speeds. I'd like to ask each of you if you'd be comfortable having your child or grandchild walking with the road this close to the house. During the winter months, then she talks about the snowmobiles, much like Mary Kay Muehlbauer did as well. And the snowmobilers hitting vehicles in the driveway. As homeowners on this road, we hope you take some time to seriously consider the safety issue this is imposing. We understand that they strive to keep the center line where it is because it may save money, but sometimes the safety issues will outweigh the desire to do this. The amount of money the county may be saving initially by keeping the center line where it is could be minimal compared to a lawsuit from somebody being hurt or even killed. My recommendation is that they consider shifting this further to the south. Additional reasons to consider shifting this to the south, there have been numerous cars that have gone off the road on County Road 2 at the T, coming from St. Stephen, traveling north on County Road 2. When they go off the T, they go in the ditch, and some have run into the pine trees on Kevin O'Leary's property. With my recommendation, they could improve the visibility of the stop sign by cutting on the slight hill before the stop sign and bringing the stop sign back further to the south, allowing for the construction to shift further to the south where it is not impacting the safety of the residents on the road. If you look at the properties, there are no homes directly on the south side that would be impacted on this stretch of road up to the corner. I appreciate your time and consideration. And the last letter is from Frankie Blankush, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that last name. This one came just to me. Blankushes did sign their right-of-way documents and send them in. And she starts out, although we did send our signatures in, we did so not feeling as though there was any other option or that any objections would not be considered. Many of my neighbors have expressed their concerns, and I would like to do so as well. She's a daycare provider, mother of 3 school-aged children, and she talks about she needs her home to appear safe, including from traffic to new potential families seeking her services. So many of my neighbors have lived here decades longer than I have, some even longer than I've been alive. This is a vibrant neighborhood full of people who care, as I'm sure you are now aware. Since I've worked from home for the last 5 years, I've had a beautiful view of the cornfield across the street from me. I've also had the opportunity to see a lot of the traffic going by. There's a school bus stop in front of my home and another in front of the home to the southeast of mine across the road. In 5 years, there have been at least 3 incidents where someone drove past the flashing stop arm of the school bus. Children, especially young children, are impulsive and impatient. Apparently, so are inattentive drivers. I, as a daycare provider, have children as young as 4 utilizing the school bus stop there 5 days a week, 9 months of the year. There's no amount of diligence as one person I can provide that would ever prevent a vehicle going 55 miles per hour or greater from hitting a child exiting a bus. As many of my neighbors have mentioned, there's an issue with speed on this road. I personally have been passed on the left while signaling to turn left into my own driveway by an impatient driver. This is absolutely terrifying. I frequently get passed when going the speed limit because this is a county road and does not have a frequent police presence. Speeding is very common. I do not understand the justify for increasing the speed of the curve. It is already very dangerous, and someone should not have to be familiar with an area to drive safely there. With an increased speed limit, even if the curve is made safer, my concern is now there's an even longer runway for speeding drivers to build up their speed. This is dangerous to the point where I will no longer feel comfortable allowing children to play in the space in front of my home at all. but there's also considerable wildlife presence in this area. I know wildlife presence isn't anything you weren't aware of, but to me, they are important. That's one of the things I love about where I live. At our heart, we are a neighborhood in a community. We are not a highway. We are not a pass-through for trucks and fast cars. Our safety matters. I'm asking that you please consider this when making your decision. So, and I'm not going to go through everything I included in the board packet, but again, I did want to bring your attention to those letters in the event you did not see them in your email. I included the petition and another letter from Winches that are along this road. I mentioned in the board packet that we have since on several properties pulled in those construction limits, and we did restake those on Friday. So Friday morning, I don't know how many of those property owners, I would assume that they've had the opportunity to look at them. We are still proposing a 50-foot right-of-way along this. The plat that was included in your board packet does represent those newer temporary easement limits. Again, I wanted to be completely transparent and share with you the comments that we've received. Now, if the board would choose to not move forward with this right-of-way plat, we would ask the board for some direction if they would want us to look into doing an environmental assessment on a potential new alignment for County Road 2. And we would also, at that point, need to start those discussions and negotiations with Brockway Township, because obviously the road would still need to be in place. The board can direct us to abandon the reconstruction project and do a resurfacing only. You've heard about a lot of the safety issues on the road. Those would not be addressed with the resurfacing only. The steep slopes and the erosion problems would remain there as well. So with that, I know I've given you a lot of information. I don't know if the board has any questions for me.
Well, thank you for the report, Jody, and you just personally, I appreciate, as you always do, you met with the residents, you're reading the comments that you would not have had to read, but they're in the record. You've gone out of your way to make sure that we're informed on everything, and it's the exception to the rule that you aren't able to resolve issues like this. So to your credit, you certainly have done that, and this is one of those things where, for at least for me, it gets into the weeds of the technical nature of it, and I'm not a highway engineer, and I'm not, the funding expert, all that stuff. A lot of moving parts here in trying to navigate these road projects, but it's the exception to the rule that you haven't been able to find some comfort for folks, and so you certainly tried, I guess is my point, and thank you for being that transparent and open and whatever. Any comments? Commissioner Notch?
Mr. Chair, this is just a tough situation, because even looking at Jody's drawn in realignments, you're going to deal now with 3 or 4 other residents where, now they're going to have a road probably close to their facilities. And yeah, nobody likes to see these 90-degree turns, even if they're gradual turns, because they're just always hazardous, because people have become way more inattentive when driving, and it's unfortunate. And, respecting the road in general, because it's a privilege to be able to drive. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't look at it that way, and there's just not an easy solution to this problem, in my opinion.
And I'm sure more than I drove it to get a feel for it. I've read everything, read the staff reports and all the emails. And you're right, you kind of poke one area in, it's like the doughboy, you move the road or you do something, you poke one area in, it pops out in another area, and then you develop opposition to that. And again, I'm a 10,000-foot view guy. I don't know the details of how to get to where we might need to get to. So, yep, it's a struggle. Commissioner Clark.
Thank you. I want to, I guess, echo your statements, Mr. Chair. This is really hard. Appreciate all the work that's going to, what keeps going through my head is, I'm guessing the answer is probably no, there's not yet another idea, or else you would have given it to us. But to address the safety concerns, we have to make changes. to not go through the environmental impact process and look at moving? Because, I mean, from a common sense standpoint, I mean, somebody else will be upset, so I hope nobody will take what I'm about to say away. Like, I think it should just happen. If it could have been moved the other way, that might have been a lower pain point for some, but then it's a different process, and it sounds like it would take more time and maybe more money. I mean, to try to figure out how to, abandoning this is not a good solution, the safety pieces. So I guess what I'm wondering is this our best not good option in terms of dealing with the different components, or?
Jody?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Clark, staff feels that this is our best, to use your words, not good option. I wanted in this map to be able to show you there are other building sites. And so
Right.
going along a new alignment, there's certainly going to be wetland impacts with the new alignment. Of course, obviously, we would have to, in addition to environmental assessment, we would have to purchase those wetland credits. And we're dealing with that on a different project right now, just because something that wasn't determined eligible for the road bank wetland credits. The other item that you might have to consider, even if we want to go forward with these other options, looking at a different alignment, if it is slightly further out of the way, traffic will continue to take the existing alignment. They'll continue to take the existing alignment no matter what until something else would get built. A potential viable outcome from the environmental assessment is don't build, use your existing alignment, because you have to justify those environmental impacts with the purpose and need. And the fact that we have a road there that is a county highway, it's a minor arterial, and traffic might just continue to take it, and none of those safety issues will be addressed at all. And I think the examples I have of when there are viable options that are slightly further out of the way, look at 322nd Street, look at Town Line Road. For some reason, and those roads are far worse than this one, people continue to take those roads despite their condition, despite the safety issues, and they travel fast. And so we need to work on making the roadway as safe as we can. And I know one of the complaints I had heard about was farm equipment. There was a tractor on this road, and then there was a lineup of vehicles behind it. And so then people start to pass when it's not safe. With the 8-foot shoulders, we've heard compliments on other sections of County Road 2. Once we built those 8-foot shoulders, that farm equipment can move over and traffic can pass a little bit more safely, as opposed to choosing to pass as soon as they, because they're in a hurry, whether it's safe or not. We feel that the forgiving roadside will certainly help with some of those crashes. We believe that that's going to address it. You're going to have more reaction time. You won't have those steepened slopes alongside the road. That staff's recommendation would be to move forward with this.
Any other discussion?
Well, this is a situation where.
Commissioner Lenzmeyer?
Yeah, this is a situation where we're damned if we do and damned if we don't, because we have now acknowledged all of these issues, and maybe we've removed the option in that acknowledgement of doing nothing. So as a result, to the extent that we possibly can to address these issues, it seems like we have to move forward.
And Mike and Jody, you might want to just explain the parameters of, this isn't a public hearing. You want to just explain that?
Sure, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this was not a public hearing, and people have had an opportunity, of course, to talk about this. Knowing that there's people that wanted to be heard is really why Jody spent considerable time making sure that you saw and heard everything that was in the packet. And we advised the people that were concerned that this was not a public hearing, and to be sure and communicate with you all on the board before the meeting. And that's, again, why Jody made sure that everybody had all the documents as well. Not you, I mean the people that were interested.
And I know that we've all read all the emails and the comments and the public forum a couple of weeks ago. So we certainly heard that information. So with that, we need to give Jody a direction of what to do. Oh, and I will share in his absence that Commissioner Persky, and I know Jody and with amongst all of us has had several conversations. He certainly is torn by this as well, and it's not an easy situation for any of us. So a motion would be in order to give Jody some direction.
I'd make the motion to move forward on this. And then I'll wait for a second if I get one, tell a short story.
The motion would be to approve Stearns County Highway right-of-way plat number 69. Is there a second to that motion?
With reluctance, I will second the motion to approve the best, not so good option.
Motion's been made, seconded by Commissioner Clark, made by Commissioner Lenzmeyer. Any further discussion? Commissioner Lenzmeyer.
Yeah, the story, I haven't told it for a while, but it's appropriate here. Before I got on the board, my opinion was the prudent way to move forward on a matter like this is you consider 3 options and you pick the best option. Now that since I've had the job a while, my attitude is, you consider 3 options and they're all miserable, and you're trying to determine which one causes the least misery. And that's where we're at now.
Okay. Any further discussion? Other than that, the motion's been made and seconded with no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item is issues by.
Mr. Chair,
sorry,
item F10.
I forgot F10, I'm sorry.
Item F10 that was pulled from your consent agenda is I'm asking the board to authorize the county engineer to approve an overhead service agreement form with Xcel Energy to relocate their distribution lines along County Road 2 between Cold Spring and County Road 165. Now, as you, I'm sure, recall, you approved the agreement that totaled just under $2.7 million for the transmission lines. At that time, we were given an estimate for the distribution lines that were also on private easement. We were given an estimate of about $300,000. Well, they have updated their costs to relocate these distribution lines on the transmission poles, and they did give us credit for used up life. So the total cost of this agreement for the distribution lines is $154,113.81. So I am asking the board to authorize me to go ahead and sign that agreement with Xcel Energy.
And I thought it deserved some public discussion because we talked about it a lot. And I personally believe that the discussion we had and some of us making this as public as we did and having conversations with Xcel helped get them to where they are. So again, just approving things when they first occur isn't maybe always the way to do it. And I think because of discussions, and again, this is a savings, obviously, not to the county, but to the residents, that obviously will allow that to happen. So that's why I wanted to bring attention to it. So I'll make the motion to authorize Jody to sign those documents. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, go ahead.
Commissioner Notch seconds it. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Now we'll go to issues by commissioners. Commissioner Lenzmeyer?
I have nothing to add. The good news about this particular meeting is we had some split votes, and split votes indicate discussion. So we did accomplish more than just the actual actions we took. Good job.
Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, we had some tough items on here today, and that's really hard. And hopefully we can come back together and keep trying to figure out good opportunities and solutions. And I hope the folks who were in front of us earlier still hear that working together, hopefully now will make a difference in their area. Transportation Alliance Day on the Hill is on Thursday. There's also an opportunity to be hearing from both DHS and DCYF, two departments, for those of you who don't know, Department of Human Services, Department of Children, Youth, and Families, about the governor's proposed budget proposals that Dr. Williams had sent out information to us, and I don't know if he was planning on talking about it, but the potential impact could be up to over $11 million a year, both with cost shifts and new requirements, and potentially up to over an 11.5% levy increase. This is just, it's not acceptable, and the state needs to continue to work on their part of fixing the budget solution and not putting it on the backs of property taxpayers. And I think for now, I'll leave it at that.
Commissioner Notch?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And, you know, it's nice to see, you know, people are passionate about things. And I still believe truly that we as human beings can come to resolutions without having to lay down more rules all the time. I always say the more laws you want, the more restrictive or smaller your box becomes. So sometimes I think if people could just talk it out and work through it, we all would be much better off, in my opinion.
Well, on that point, I don't think we've as a board ever have had just like a retreat with just the five of us and you and maybe one other. I think that's something we should think about doing. It's not uncommon. It certainly weighs on me heavily. Everybody comes to this place in a different way from a different position, but, kind of dealing with different districts and different opinions, and just out of a difference of saying, okay, I don't agree with you, but I'll defer to this because of that kind of a thing. It's kind of the way I think we should really start thinking about doing it, because there's some angst, and we've got to somehow work through that. And it doesn't go away by ignoring it, in my opinion. So whatever, we should think about doing that. I wouldn't mind having a Justice Center item on the agenda, at least every meeting or every other meeting. Kevin sent an update today, but it wouldn't hurt to get some of that, I think, on an ongoing basis, kind of in the public, 5-10 minute overview, kind of where things are at, where they're going. Again, don't know if you want a consensus on that, or, my suggestion would be that we'd have some kind of a regular update, because obviously everybody knows this is front and center. I mean, that we're talking about this a lot, but they don't necessarily know what we're talking about. So do you need more of a consensus on that, or?
I don't see any problem with doing that. If other board members are okay with that, it is certainly something that we're spending a lot of time on. You're correct.
Right. And I think that's not reflected necessarily to the public, because it only becomes kind of public when we talk about it. So it's like we don't talk about it for 3 months. Well, it's getting talked about every day, not by the board, but certainly a lot more by the board than what it's perceived as being because of behind the scenes stuff. So
Mr. Chair, I think it is useful for the public, and maybe it's really just what Kevin has started sending to us, right? I mean, we're not looking for big discussions, but us knowing and the public being able to hear, I think could be a good thing.
And then the public engagement sessions at some point, I don't know if you want to put that on the agenda for a further discussion. You had that in your administrative report, or again, if you want to have it in a situation like this, or, I don't know, but I think we should talk about that
Yeah,
one way or another.
definitely, I think the administration needs some feedback from the board on where you want to go with those, if any. I mean, I think it came up at
The last meeting.
Last meeting during issues by commissioners, so.
Right.
I'm happy to put it on an agenda if the board wants to talk about it.
I don't know how or where we want to talk about it, but it will have to get talked about
Yeah.
to give you a direction. So how you want to do it or how we want to do it is up to us, I guess. I think it would be better as an agenda item personally, but again, whatever the board wants. But I think we need to discuss it, one, because of your coordinator report, and two, to kind of come up with a plan, so. So should we do it as an agenda item, or?
Well, Mr. Chair, I mean, to that end, I guess the question is, do you want us to give you feedback directly about what we're thinking? I think last time it was pretty obvious that letting the public know about what's going on is a good idea, and I think then that might be where we might stop and start in where each of us are at. And I guess the question might be, what are we trying to do? Are you going to be putting stuff up on the website? Those are questions I have. Right, put stuff on the website so that people can see where we're going. Is it that we're going to let people hear more after? We've got a pretty tight turnaround time at this point, just to make sure we're staying in what our timeline, so we frankly can continue our fiduciary responsibility to keep this price down.
Yeah, I think those are some of the, what the purpose is that drives how we do it, I guess. We're planning on bringing to the board in early April some further design. We probably won't have hard and fast cost estimates at that time. We'll have an idea. And so at what point do we want to engage the public, if we want to, on this? And what are we looking for from the public, or is it just disseminating information?
And my point would be to disseminate information and also to get information before a final decision is made. That would be my perspective. And I think two of us said that we're going to have our meetings, and the question is, do we do it individually or do we do it as a board? I mean, and that really is a question. So I don't know if you're any more clear right now than you were before.
No, I wouldn't say that I am.
Because I'm not, so.
But if we did it as a board, that would be fine. I don't know that we need 20 like we did
Oh, God,
during
no.
the election.
Well, Mr. Chair, I think one of the
Commissioner Clark?
I think one of the challenges is how to present information in a way that reflects what people voted for, and people are not going to, I mean, and to be respectful of both what people are seeing and reacting to, but also that decisions have been made and that we're going to keep moving forward. And there's not going to be a great opportunity to be making a whole bunch of changes. So that's a concern I have, mostly because practically speaking, we're going to get to a point where that's really where we're at. So I'm just not really sure. I mean, I think we could probably, we had a good opportunity with staff to do a lot of those conversations. Some of them were well attended, some of them weren't. We got a lot of good input then. So in my head, the part I'm confused about is what we would really hope to get. It certainly wouldn't, I would think, not wanting to put words in anybody's mouth, because I'm not, it would seem like it'd be too hard to have a couple of things or do a remote one where people can participate and see. I know when we did the Whitney one, people could participate remotely as well as in person, but maybe, back to your point, Mr. Chair, maybe administration comes back to us with, here's what we're recommending, and then we can react to that, because time is ticking. We're going to do it.
So, and from my perspective, I either as what I need to decide in my head is if I do it myself or if I do it as part of, I've got county staff that have committed to attending something that I would set up in my district. I want to hear from the people before the final decision is made, and I want to give them the information. And I'm, again, 10,000-foot view guy. I want somebody there, and they've agreed to come to give the specific information that people know exactly what you're doing. Because, again, if we don't tell them, they're going to make things up. So the more And then it's certainly, I want to listen to them, because again, to go to them after we made a decision, well, then really, what are you asking me? I mean, what are you here for? So that would be my intent. So if that fits into the board as a whole mission, great. If it doesn't, then again, I'll do my deal separate and with the help of some staff that agree to do it, and we'll go from there. So, but I would want to do it prior to us making the final decision, and that might be before we have the final numbers, but it would give them an idea. And again, certainly not, I mean, I would have one if I did it myself, certainly not 20 sessions. And if 5 people show up, well, again, at the end of the day, at least we can say we tried, you know, or at least I can say I tried to listen and get input. I've gotten a lot of input, we all have. And so I'm compiling that. So that would be my, so I'm not any more clear than you are at this point. So I think I'm just gonna plan to do mine. And I know Commissioner Notch last time said you'd be more in favor of doing it after we made the decision, unless that's changed. That was kind of your position.
Right.
So I think I'm getting the sense that probably Commissioner Persky and I will just do our own thing in our own districts unless something changes.
And Mr. Chair, going
Commissioner
back to, I'd like for administration to at least come back to us with what they think could be presented to people, so that they're being able to make useful observations or whatever it is. I think we could easily do something on the east side of the county. We could do something at the library again, and that would probably work for, frankly, all 3 of our districts, because we probably don't need 5.
Well, and if I can just add to that,
Commissioner Notch?
you know, it's a matter of, you know, at what point does a person do it? You know, input's great. You know, we're in essence charged with making that final decision. I mean, I'm not saying the whole thing has to be done, and then I'm gonna hold like a public meeting, I guess you could say. You know, at some point when I would feel comfortable, that's probably when I would hold it. I'm not saying it has to be, oh, here's the final, now we're gonna talk about it, because, well, that's gonna just, if people don't agree with it, well, now you just created more angst. Whereas if they get a little bit of input, you know, you can have better dialogue.
For me, the drop dead time obviously would be when we say, okay, this is what we're doing.
Yep.
Prior to
Because
that
that's
is when I would.
making a decision.
So April 8th, we're just agreeing to a bid packet being submitted. So that's not a final decision yet. That's when we're gonna get specifics on that bid package. So the final decision, I'm not sure what that date is.
Why don't we let us revisit the schedule so you can all see that again? And then as Commissioner Clark suggests, maybe we'll have some suggestions on how we can move forward. I think we've got time to think about that in the next couple meetings.
Oh, sure. Yep, good. And then, as Mike said in his report, the director reviews he will be doing. I asked him to share each of the directors that he's doing reviews for, and then allow a little bit of time for input. When and if we do have a retreat, or whatever it would be called, some of these issues I would hope that we could discuss, because again, I'm always encouraged, we're all encouraged to go to AMC events and, you know, chair training and all that stuff. And when you do that and you start talking to people on either side of you, you know, department reviews are done very differently, agenda reviews are done very differently. And most times I get the, really, you don't do that, you know, response from counties across the state. So I think at some point we should have some discussion on the way these things are done. And again, no right or wrong, but at least having a discussion, because I never was a part of that. But I'm going to submit my my thoughts on the department director reviews to help him convey it, because right now that's the only way we can do it. So
Mr.
But
Chair.
Commissioner Clark,
Yeah, and I've already done that. I've always appreciated the opportunity to at least be able to give some input, some feedback. And I think we also have to remember some of the counties we hear from are significantly smaller than us. If you look at the counties that are our size or a little smaller, a little bigger, things are done a bit differently. Just like some county boards do the appeals process, we just did it today again. We have given that to a different group of people to do. So, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I think we all take that into account. Everybody's a little differently, and this has worked really pretty well. Joe, when I came on, said, when I was an educator, I learned that, you got to learn, and then you adopt, and then you adapt. And we've been doing adopting and adapting now, and there's a lot of good things that we do, which may be better practices, and they also work for us.
and also Commissioner Clark, we can certainly talk about things, how we could do it differently, and especially because, again, I wasn't here when you had those conversations. And I can tell you that 3 counties that come immediately to mind that are doing things much differently than us are neighboring larger counties or as large, Sherburne, Wright, and even Washington. I was shocked at some of the things that they're doing that I kind of said, shouldn't we be doing it this way? So the point is, let's have that conversation, and now's not the time. Anything else, Commissioner Nod?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if it's all right. Yeah, I don't know if it's on behalf of the board, but giving condolences to former Commissioner Mergen for his passing of his daughter-in-law at a young age.
Yep.
Was she 46?
44.
44.
Very tragic. Only found out in September. Wasn't even at the doctor for that issue, and ends up very quickly, and then most recently given weeks, and ended up being days. So, yep, a very trying time for the Mergen family. 2 ninth graders that Adam now will have to father as a single parent. Thank God they've got the family close, including Commissioner Mergen and Nellie. But yeah, what a tragic. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, nothing else for the good of the order. Meeting's adjourned.